Imagine holding a coin that connects you directly to a pivotal moment in American history. A coin so ordinary in your pocket that you might overlook its hidden value. Yet in the right hands, it could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Today we're exploring one of the most fascinating pennies ever minted, the 1964 D mint mark Lincoln penny. This tiny copper disc carries a story that collectors have chased for decades, a story of history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. The 1964 D Lincoln penny is part of the long-running series honoring Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It's a coin that was minted in Denver, as indicated by the small D stamped beneath the year on the obverse, or front side of the coin. At first glance, it looks like countless other pennies that pass through American hands every day. But the history and composition of this particular coin make it special. 1964 was a turning point for the United States. The nation was in the midst of social change, with the civil rights movement making headlines and President Lyndon B. Johnson enacting sweeping legislation. Against this backdrop, the U.S. Mint continued producing coins that would circulate across the country, including the Lincoln penny, which had been in continuous production since 1909. That year, 1964, marked the final production of the classic large-scale copper penny before changes in metal composition would begin to influence coin collectors' attention in the following years. The 1964 D penny was struck primarily from a copper alloy composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that had been on pennies for more than half a century. The reverse, or backside, shows two wheat ears framing the words 1 cent, a design known as the wheat penny, which was used from 1909 to 1958. By 1964, the Lincoln penny had already seen a subtle evolution, but it retained the charm and historical resonance that collectors prize. What makes the 1964 D penny particularly interesting are the small details that set certain coins apart. Some of these pennies exhibit what collectors call mint errors. These can include doubled dies, where the imprint appears slightly doubled, or weak strikes, where part of Lincoln's profile or the date is faint. Even minor variations can dramatically increase the coin's value. In addition, the coin's metal composition is important because pennies produced after 1964 began incorporating less copper, making the 1964 D one of the last primarily copper pennies of its era. This gives it an added layer of historical and material significance. So why is this penny rare or valuable? While millions were minted in Denver in 1964, finding one in exceptional condition is challenging. Many circulated heavily, suffering wear, scratches, and discoloration over decades of use. Coins that remain in mint state, meaning they have little to no wear, are highly sought after by collectors. Condition, rarity, and any unique errors can drive prices significantly higher. Even small imperfections can tell a story, capturing the coin's journey through history and giving it character that collectors find irresistible. To put this into perspective, 1964 D pennies in average circulated condition might be worth a few cents to a couple of dollars, but coins graded as uncirculated, or those with noticeable mint errors, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. For example, a 1964 D penny with a sharp strike and flawless surfaces recently sold at auction for several $100s, astonishing, considering it was originally worth just 1 cent. Collectors often pay premiums for coins that are rare examples of common dates, and the 1964 D penny fits perfectly into that niche. If you're wondering how to identify a real 1964 D penny versus a counterfeit, there are a few simple checks. First, look for the small D mint mark beneath the date. Counterfeit coins often have irregular or poorly placed mint marks. Next, examine the metal. A genuine 1964 D penny should be heavy for its size and have the characteristic reddish-brown or copper hue. The design details should be crisp, especially on higher-grade coins. Magnification can reveal double dies or other mint errors that authenticate the coin further. Experienced collectors also rely on weight, diameter, and sound when dropped on a solid surface to detect forgeries, but for everyday enthusiasts, careful visual inspection is often enough to separate the real from the fake. One of the most surprising aspects of the 1964 D penny is how closely it ties to history. Not only is it a coin from a pivotal year in the United States, but it's also the last Lincoln penny struck entirely from the classic copper composition, before the mint began experimenting with zinc and steel in later years. This subtle transition adds a layer of intrigue, turning a seemingly ordinary coin into a bridge between eras. Collectors love this coin because it represents both a tangible piece of everyday life and a connection to broader historical shifts. Another fun fact is that while many people focus on rare coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, the 1964 D penny demonstrates that even modern coins can hold remarkable value. It's a reminder that treasures can be hiding in your pocket change, waiting to be recognized by someone who knows what to look for. Some collectors even enjoy hunting through rolls of pennies from the 1960s, hoping to find a mint condition 1964 D or a version with a unique error, turning coin collecting into both a hobby and a small treasure hunt. Collectors also appreciate the 1964 D penny because it embodies the story of Lincoln's legacy, which has endured for more than a century. The coin represents American history, the continuity of design, and the subtle artistry of minting. It's a coin that can be displayed, studied, and appreciated for its historical context as much as for its monetary value. Every scratch, every color variation, tells part of its story, making each coin unique, even among millions of others. Today, the 1964 D Lincoln penny remains a popular coin among both seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts. Its blend of historical significance, material composition, potential for errors, and connection to a beloved president ensures that it will continue to capture imaginations for generations to come. People enjoy owning something that feels like a tangible link to the past, a small but meaningful artifact that has circulated in pockets and hands for decades, carrying with it the story of a nation and the legacy of one of its most famous leaders. So next time you come across a penny in your change, don't just toss it aside. Look closely, examine the date and the mint mark. You might be holding a coin that's more than a simple piece of metal. You could be holding a fragment of history, a collector's dream, a story that has traveled through time. The 1964 D Lincoln penny is a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest secrets. The coin sitting quietly in your hand right now could be the key to discovering a hidden treasure or connecting you to a piece of history you never expected. The story of the 1964 D penny is far from over. Every time someone discovers one in pristine condition, shares it with the world, or passes it down to the next generation, it adds a new chapter to its journey. Its value isn't just measured in dollars, but in the fascination, joy, and connection it brings to those who recognize its significance. Maybe the next 1964 D penny to be found in a dusty collection or a forgotten drawer could be the one that surprises everyone. The coin that reminds us that history is often hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered. This tiny coin, barely an inch in diameter, has more stories than most people realize. It's a doorway into the past, a challenge for collectors, and a spark of curiosity for anyone who cares to look. And in that sense, the 1964 D Lincoln penny is far more than just spare change. It's history you can hold, treasure you can touch, and a mystery that continues to captivate the imaginations of collectors around the world. Would you recognize it if it slipped through your fingers in a jar of change? Could you spot the difference between an ordinary penny and one that carries decades of history and hidden value? The 1964 D Lincoln penny asks us to look closer, to question the ordinary, and to wonder what stories are waiting to be discovered in the coins we see every day. History, value, and fascination, all contained within a single small coin, waiting quietly for someone to notice. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people overlook, yet it could be quietly worth far more than the change in your pocket. Today, we're talking about a coin that has puzzled collectors and intrigued enthusiasts for decades, the 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. On the surface, it looks like just another penny, but dig a little deeper, and you'll discover a story of history, design, and subtle rarity that makes this ordinary-looking coin extraordinary. The 1968 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running series of 1-cent coins that feature the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln. Since 1909, Lincoln's face has graced the front of the penny, a tribute to the 16th President of the United States. By 1968, this design had already been in circulation for nearly 60 years, becoming one of the most recognized images in American coinage. While the design itself might feel familiar, this particular year holds some interesting stories. In 1968, the United States was in a period of transition and change. The country was facing social upheaval, the Vietnam War was ongoing, and the civil rights movement was reshaping the nation. Coins, often overlooked as everyday objects, became small reflections of the era. The Lincoln penny continued to be produced in large numbers at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the mint mark indicating where it was struck. Coins from Philadelphia in 1968 often carried no mint mark, which was the standard practice at that mint. The 1968 penny is made primarily of copper, like most pennies of its era, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This was before the major composition change in 1982 that switched pennies mostly to zinc with a copper coating. The front, or obverse, of the coin features Abraham Lincoln's profile, facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date, 1968, to the right. The back, or reverse, displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. While most 1968 pennies were minted in massive quantities and circulated widely, what makes the 1968 no-mint mark penny interesting is how it fits into the broader story of coin collecting and scarcity. Coins without a mint mark from Philadelphia were common, but over time, fewer have survived in pristine condition. Coins that show sharp details, full steps on the Lincoln Memorial, or a strong strike of Lincoln's profile, can be far more valuable than coins that are worn or damaged. Errors and variations also add intrigue. While the 1968 penny didn't produce a large number of well-known error coins, some examples exist with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or other minor minting mistakes. These anomalies can turn a coin that would otherwise be worth just a few cents into a sought-after collectible. For instance, a 1968 penny with a noticeable doubling of the date or the word Liberty can attract attention from serious collectors. Collectors value the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny not only because of potential errors, but also because of condition and scarcity in high grades. While millions were minted, finding one in near-perfect uncirculated condition is rare. Coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC can fetch higher prices, especially if they show a sharp strike, original luster, and no visible wear. To give some perspective, a typical circulated 1968 penny might be worth only its face value, perhaps a few cents above that to a casual collector. However, uncirculated coins in pristine condition can command significantly higher prices. For example, a coin graded MS65, which means it is in mint state with excellent preservation, might sell for $10 to $50 depending on demand. Coins with minor errors or exceptional eye appeal can fetch even more, sometimes reaching into the hundreds of dollars at auction. If you're curious about identifying a genuine 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, there are a few key things to look for. First, check the date. The number 8 in 1968 should have a distinctive shape, with a small upper loop and a larger lower loop. Lincoln's profile should be clear, with detailed hair strands and sharp facial features. The Lincoln Memorial on the back should show the steps leading up to it, and the inscriptions should be crisp. Be cautious of reproductions or cleaned coins, as these can significantly reduce value. Authentic coins will have the proper copper color, even if slightly toned with age. One of the fun facts about the 1968 penny is that it was produced during a period when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different ways to improve coin striking and metal use. While the metal composition was stable at the time, subtle changes in dies, pressure, and production methods mean that no two coins are exactly alike. Collectors enjoy searching for coins that have unusual toning, attractive surfaces, or small variations in design that make each coin a tiny piece of history. Another surprising detail is the role of the 1968 penny in broader coin collecting trends. For many collectors, Lincoln pennies from the 1960s mark a golden era of collecting. when coins were still made mostly of copper, and before modern inflation and metal shortages changed production. Finding a high-grade 1968 penny today is like finding a small piece of the past that has survived decades of use, handling, and circulation. Collectors love this coin for its accessibility, history, and subtle challenge. While it doesn't carry the astronomical values of rare 1909 pennies or certain error coins, it represents a connection to everyday life in 1968, a tangible link to the world of the late 1960s. The coin is approachable enough for new collectors, yet still offers avenues for discovery and excitement for experienced enthusiasts. From spotting a faint die variety to hunting for an uncirculated example, the 1968 no-mint mark penny holds a quiet allure that keeps people searching through pocket change, coin rolls, and collections. In the end, the 1968 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is more than just a piece of copper. It is a story of history, design, and the subtle thrill of discovery. It shows how even the most familiar objects around us can hold surprises, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. So next time you pick up a penny from the sidewalk, the register, or an old coin jar, pause for a moment. Could it be one of those small treasures, a 1968 penny, quietly carrying decades of history and potential value? You might just be holding a piece of the past that few people truly appreciate, and it could be the start of your own journey into the fascinating world of coin collecting. The story of this penny reminds us that history is everywhere, sometimes hiding in plain sight. Every detail, every variation, every well-preserved surface carries a tale of its time. And for those who take the time to notice, the ordinary can become extraordinary, one small coin at a time. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people pass by without a second glance. Yet hidden in its copper surface is a story decades in the making, a subtle history that can make collectors' hearts race. One small, ordinary-looking penny from 1971 might just be more special than you ever imagined. What makes a coin that seems so common suddenly extraordinary? Today we're uncovering the story of the 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has quietly captured the attention of collectors across the United States. The 1971 Lincoln penny is part of a lineage that stretches back more than a century. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the 1-cent coin in 1909, commemorating the centennial of his birth. Since then, the Lincoln penny has gone through subtle changes, reflecting the history and economy of the United States. By 1971, the design was familiar. Lincoln's profile facing right on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial gracing the reverse, a design first introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But while millions of pennies were minted that year, a small subset has gained attention from collectors for reasons that aren't immediately obvious. The year 1971 was significant in the United States. The country was in a period of economic change, and the coins produced that year were no exception. The Lincoln penny of 1971 was struck primarily in copper, consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This blend had been standard for decades, giving the penny a warm reddish-brown hue and a satisfying heft when held. On the front, Lincoln's profile remained steady, a symbol of the enduring respect for the 16th president. The back featured the Lincoln Memorial in fine detail, including the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the building. These details might seem minor, but for collectors, subtle variations in the design or minting process can make all the difference. One of the most notable aspects of the 1971 penny is its mint mark, or in this case, the absence of one. Coins with no mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. While Philadelphia coins are often considered standard, the no mint mark variety can sometimes be more desirable when paired with certain errors or unusual conditions. In 1971, a few pennies were minted with striking irregularities, such as double dies, weak strikes, or off-center impressions. These quirks can transform an everyday coin into a collectible item worth far more than face value. So why would a 1971 penny be valuable? After all, millions were minted that year. The answer lies in condition, rarity, and collector demand. Most pennies from this era were circulated heavily, resulting in wear, scratches, and discoloration. But a penny that has avoided the hands of commerce, preserving its original luster, suddenly becomes interesting to collectors. Coins that appear almost untouched, showing crisp detail on Lincoln's coat, hair, and facial features, can fetch hundreds of dollars or more, depending on the error or variety present. Even a small doubling of the letters on Liberty or the date can send a coin's value skyrocketing. Auction records confirm that 1971 pennies can attract impressive prices. For example, a 1971 no-mint mark penny, graded as uncirculated, sold for several $100s at a recent auction. Another example involved a penny with a rare double die error, which brought in more than $1,000 to a collector who knew what to look for. While the majority of 1971 pennies are still worth only a few cents, these special examples demonstrate the hidden potential lying in your pocket change. Collectors keep an eye out for coins that combine excellent condition with unique traits, and the 1971 penny occasionally checks both boxes. Identifying a genuine 1971 no-mint mark penny is straightforward once you know what to look for. First, examine the coin's weight and color. Genuine copper pennies from 1971 should feel slightly heavier than modern zinc pennies and have a warm, reddish-brown appearance. Next, study the details on Lincoln's face and coat, as well as the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Any doubling, uneven striking, or off-center features may indicate an error worth noting. Be cautious of reproductions or cleaned coins. These can appear shiny, but lack collector value. A professional grading service can verify authenticity and provide an official assessment of condition, which is crucial for serious collectors. There are also fun and surprising details about this coin that even casual collectors might not know. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is so finely engraved that if you look closely, you can actually see the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the building. The penny's small size, only 19 millimeters across, hides a rich history of manufacturing techniques, including how dies were made and pressed. Some 1971 pennies even contain faint die cracks, little hairline fractures that occurred during the minting process, which collectors affectionately call minting scars. These imperfections, though invisible to most, make each coin a small piece of history. Collectors love the 1971 Lincoln penny not only for its rarity, but for the story it tells. Owning one of these coins connects you to a moment in American history, a snapshot of the early 1970s, when pennies were copper-rich and the Lincoln Memorial design was still fresh in its centennial decade. The coin serves as a tangible link to the past, a reminder that even everyday objects can have hidden significance. For many, the thrill comes from the hunt, searching through rolls of change in hopes of finding a penny that might be worth far more than its face value. That excitement, combined with the historical context, makes the 1971 penny a favorite among collectors of all levels. Study the details, examine the edges, and consider the history behind it. You may be holding more than just a coin. You could be holding a piece of American history, a small copper witness to the passage of time. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny may seem ordinary, but for those who know how to look, it offers a glimpse into the extraordinary. Could the penny in your pocket be one of the rare survivors that collectors dream about? Only a careful eye and a little curiosity will tell. The story of this coin doesn't end with its minting. Its journey through wallets, jars, and collections continues today, quietly waiting for the next person to recognize its value. It reminds us that even the simplest objects can carry hidden treasures, and that the history of the United States can sometimes be found in the smallest places. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone curious about the coins in your change, the 1971 Lincoln penny offers a fascinating glimpse into the past, and perhaps a chance to discover something truly remarkable. Every coin has a story, but the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny proves that history, rarity, and potential wealth can hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Are you holding one right now? Most people wouldn't look twice at a penny from 1973, but what if I told you that some of these ordinary-looking coins have sold for thousands of dollars, and one rare version shocked collectors by reaching 5 figures? Today we're uncovering the hidden story behind the 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that might already be sitting in your pocket change unnoticed. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck in Philadelphia. And when there's no mint mark under the date, that's exactly what it means. It came from the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, it looks like millions of other Lincoln pennies. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. But this simple copper coin carries a fascinating history, and in rare cases, surprising value. To understand why this penny matters, we need to go back to the early 1970s. America was changing fast. Inflation was rising. Gas prices were climbing. The Vietnam War was winding down, and the cost of making coins, especially copper, was becoming a serious concern for the U.S. Mint. In fact, copper prices were rising so sharply that producing pennies was becoming more expensive than the coin's face value. In 1973, the Mint was still striking pennies in a mostly copper alloy, the same traditional composition Americans had used for decades. These coins were 95% copper, with small amounts of zinc and tin. That gave them a warm reddish color, heavier weight, and solid feel compared to modern pennies. Just 9 years later, in 1982, the Mint would permanently change to copper-plated zinc to save money. But in 1973, this penny still represented the end of the classic copper era. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 2 billion Lincoln cents in 1973, more than 2.4 billion to be exact. That huge number is one reason most people assume these coins are worthless. After all, how could something made in the billions be rare? But in coin collecting, rarity doesn't always mean low mintage. It often means low survival, imperfect condition, unusual errors, or special varieties that few people notice at the time. Let's talk about what this penny actually looks like. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right. His portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above Lincoln's head is the word Liberty, and to the right of his face is the date, 1973. Under the date, you'll notice there is no mint mark. That's your first key identifier. On the back, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with the words United States of America across the top, 1 cent at the bottom, and E pluribus unum above the memorial. If you look closely at high-grade examples, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, making this one of the few coins in the world where the same person appears on both sides. The coin weighs about 3.11 grams and measures just under 20 millimeters across. When new, it had a bright copper-red shine, but over time most examples turn brown from oxidation and handling. And that color difference, red-brown or brown, plays a major role in how valuable the coin can be today. Now here's where things get interesting. Most circulated 1973 no-mint mark pennies are worth only face value, 1 cent, or maybe a few cents if they're in nice condition. But uncirculated examples, especially those with full original red color, can be worth significantly more. And certain rare error coins from this year have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. One of the most famous and valuable varieties is the 1973 double die obverse penny. This is a mint error where the design was struck from a misaligned die, causing parts of the lettering and date to appear doubled. On these coins you might notice doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself. These are not shadows or damage, they're true doubling from the minting process. In top condition, authentic double die 1973 pennies have sold for impressive amounts. Some high-grade examples have reached over $10,000 at auction, especially when certified by major grading services. That's a shocking result for a coin most people still think is spare change. Another rare and valuable category is off-metal errors. Occasionally pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal planchet, for example, on a dime blank, or even on aluminum experimental blanks. While aluminum cents from 1974 are more famous, rare off-metal strikes from nearby years, including 1973, have been discovered and sold for substantial prices. These coins usually weigh less than normal and have unusual colors, making them easy to spot if you know what to look for. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal with no raised rim. Some 1973 pennies show this effect, and can be worth anywhere from $50 to several $100s depending on condition. Then there are clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin's edge is missing because the metal strip wasn't properly fed into the cutting machine. These look like a bite was taken out of the coin, While minor clips may sell for $10 to $30, dramatic clips can bring much more, especially if the coin is uncirculated. But even without errors, condition alone can make a big difference. In circulated condition, most 1973 no-mint mark pennies are worth 1 to 3 cents. In uncirculated brown condition, they might sell for 25 to 50 cents. In red-brown condition, maybe $1 to $2. But in full red condition, graded MS65 or higher, prices can jump to $10, $20 or more. And in top-tier grades like MS67 red, auction prices have climbed into the hundreds. One example graded MS67 red sold for several $100s at auction, not because the coin was rare in mintage, but because very few survive in that level of perfection. Most were handled, spent, scratched, or oxidized long ago. Finding one today that still looks fresh from the mint is surprisingly difficult. So how do you tell if you have a valuable one? First, check the date. It must read 1973. Then check below the date. If there's no letter, that means it's from Philadelphia, the no mint mark version. Next, examine the color. Is it bright copper red or dull brown? Red coins tend to be more valuable. Then look closely at the lettering and numbers using a magnifying glass. Check Liberty. In God we trust, and the date for signs of doubling. Not shadows or wear, but actual separation in the letters. True doubled dies look like the design was printed twice, slightly offset, not smeared or flattened. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal copper penny from this year should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it's much lighter or heavier, it could be struck on the wrong metal, and that's a major red flag in a good way. Also inspect the edges. Is the rim missing in places? Is the coin wider than usual? Is there a curved cutout along the edge? These could indicate mint errors that raise the value. As for fakes, most counterfeit pennies aren't targeting 1973 coins, because the majority are low value. But fake doubled dies do exist, created by altering regular coins. The best protection is professional certification. If you think you've found something special, sending it to a trusted grading service can confirm authenticity and preserve its value. Now here's something surprising. Despite being struck in over 2 billion copies, the 1973 no-mint mark penny represents a turning point in American coin history. It comes from the final decade of traditional copper pennies. It was minted during a time of economic pressure that would soon force the government to abandon solid copper coins altogether. In that sense, it's a quiet witness to one of the biggest changes in U.S. coinage. Another fun fact: in 1973, the U.S. Mint did not produce any pennies for general circulation in proof sets. That means collectors who wanted high-quality versions had to rely on regular mint strikes or special mint sets, which had a different finish and slightly different characteristics. This makes top-grade business strikes from 1973 more desirable than you might expect. There's also the Lincoln Memorial design itself. By 1973, this reverse design had been used for 15 years, and collectors were starting to pay more attention to subtle varieties and errors. Today, entire communities of collectors specialize in Lincoln cents, and the 1970s issues, once ignored, are now being closely studied for rare die varieties and unusual strikes. Collectors love this coin not because it's flashy, but because it hides surprises. It's the kind of coin that rewards careful observation. You don't need a vault, a dealer, or a fortune to start. You just need a few minutes, a magnifying glass, and some pocket change. And that makes it one of the most exciting coins for beginners and seasoned collectors alike. Imagine finding a penny in an old jar, a coin roll from the bank, or a forgotten drawer, and realizing it's worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That moment of discovery is what keeps collectors searching. And the 1973 no-mint mark penny offers that possibility more than most people realize. Even when it's not rare, this coin still tells a story. It speaks of an America on the edge of economic change. It represents the final years of copper coinage. It carries a design that honored one of the nation's greatest presidents and a monument that symbolizes unity and endurance. So the next time you see a penny dated 1973, don't toss it aside. Turn it over. Look closely. Check the color. Check the details. Because hidden among billions of ordinary coins are a few extraordinary ones, and one of them could already be in your possession. And that's the real power of this penny. It reminds us that history, value, and surprise don't always come wrapped in gold or silver. Sometimes they come in copper, disguised as 1 cent. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed uncovering the hidden story behind the 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, stay curious, because the next coin you pick up might have a story even bigger than this one. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, yet collectors are quietly searching for it, and some examples are worth hundreds of dollars. What if the coin you've ignored for years is actually one of the most misunderstood Lincoln pennies ever made? Today, we're uncovering the true story behind the 1985 D Lincoln penny, a coin most people spend without a second thought, but collectors never stop hunting. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1985. It features Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, just like most pennies made from 1959 through 2008. At first glance, it looks exactly like millions of other pennies from the 1980s. But beneath that simple copper surface is a fascinating story of change, minting challenges, rare errors, and hidden collector value. This penny was made during a turning point in U.S. coin history. By the early 1980s, copper prices had risen so high that it was becoming more expensive to make pennies than their face value. So in 1982, the U.S. Mint changed the composition of the penny from mostly copper to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. By 1985, this new zinc-based penny was standard, and billions were being produced each year to meet everyday demand. The Denver Mint alone struck more than 5 billion 1985 pennies. That number is staggering. It means nearly every American alive at the time handled at least a few of them. They flowed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and tip jars. For decades, these pennies piled up in drawers, jars, and piggy banks, unnoticed and forgotten. But here's the twist. While most 1985 D pennies are only worth 1 cent today, some rare versions, especially those with minting errors or exceptional condition, can be worth tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. And many people have no idea they might already own one. Let's talk about what makes this penny unique. On the front or obverse, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right. This design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909 to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday. Above Lincoln's head is the word liberty, and behind his neck is the motto, "In God We Trust." That copper layer is so thin that when the coin gets scratched or worn, you may see silvery metal underneath. That's one way collectors can tell it's from the post-1982 era, rather than an older copper penny. So why would a penny made by the billions be valuable at all? The answer lies in condition and errors. Most 1985 D pennies were struck quickly on high-speed presses, and quality control wasn't perfect. Many came out with weak strikes, uneven details, or surface flaws. But a small number were struck with exceptional clarity and sharpness, known as high-grade or mint-state coins. These coins were never circulated, meaning they never went through pockets, registers, or vending machines. They stayed fresh, bright, and nearly flawless. In the world of coin collecting, condition matters enormously. A worn penny is worth 1 cent. A perfectly preserved penny from the same year could be worth hundreds or more. But the real excitement comes from errors. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the coin-making process. These mistakes are rare because most flawed coins are caught and destroyed before leaving the mint. But some slip through, and when they do, collectors take notice. One of the most famous error types found on 1985 D pennies is the double die error. This happens when the coin die is misaligned during the manufacturing process, causing parts of the design to appear doubled, especially letters, numbers, or Lincoln's features. Instead of crisp single lines, you may see shadows or doubling on the date or inscriptions. Another known error is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned when struck, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted to one side. Some off-center pennies show only half of Lincoln's face, while others cut off the date or lettering. These dramatic-looking coins are highly collectible. There are also clipped planchets where part of the coin blank is missing before it's struck, creating a curved or jagged edge. And then there are broad strikes, where the coin spreads outward beyond its normal size due to a collar malfunction during striking. Some 1985 pennies were also struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. While extremely rare, errors like this can cause the coin to weigh differently, or appear silver instead of copper. These mistakes can dramatically increase a coin's value. Now let's talk about real-world prices, because this is where the story becomes exciting. Most circulated 1985 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. Even in uncirculated condition, many sell for just a few cents to $1. But coins in exceptional condition, or with rare errors, can command serious money. For example, high-grade 1985 pennies, graded by professional services in near-perfect condition, have sold at auction for $100 to $400, depending on the exact grade and surface quality. Coins graded MS67 or higher, meaning nearly flawless, are extremely rare for this issue because most examples were poorly struck or quickly circulated. But error coins are where the real surprises happen. Double-die 1985 pennies have sold for several $100s, and in some cases, more than $1,000, depending on how strong and visible the doubling is. Dramatic off-center strikes can sell anywhere from $50 to $500 or more, depending on how much of the design is missing and how visually appealing the error is. One well-known off-metal strike example sold for over $2,000 because it was struck on the wrong planchet and had been professionally authenticated. Coins like that are rare enough that many collectors go their entire lives without seeing one in person. So how do you know if your 1985 penny is something special? First, check the mint mark. Look just below the date on the front of the coin. If you see a small D, it means it was minted in Denver. No mint mark means it was made in Philadelphia. Next, look closely at the date and letters using a magnifying glass. Check for doubling, especially on the 1985, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Real double-die errors will show clear separation lines, not just blurry edges from wear or damage. Then examine the coin's shape. Is it centered properly? Are any edges missing or unusually shaped? Does the coin look stretched, clipped, or uneven? These can be signs of mint errors. Weighing the coin can also help. A normal 1985 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it weighs significantly more or less, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet, something that should be professionally evaluated. And here's an important tip. Real mint errors happen during production, not after. Scratches, dents, corrosion, and damage from tools or machines are not valuable errors. Collectors look for coins that left the mint already flawed in specific, recognizable ways. Now let's explore some fun and surprising facts about the 1985 penny. First, even though billions were minted, very few survive today in top condition. Zinc pennies are especially vulnerable to corrosion. Once the thin copper coating is damaged, the zinc core reacts quickly to moisture and air, causing bubbling, dark spots, or flaking. This means many 1985 pennies that once looked bright and shiny are now damaged beyond collector interest. Second, this penny comes from the final decades of the Lincoln Memorial design, which ended in 2008. Today, newer pennies feature the Union Shield on the back instead. This makes Memorial sense like the 1985 part of a completed era in U.S. coin history. Third, collectors often use coins like the 1985 penny as a gateway coin, a piece that introduces people to the world of coin errors, grading, and hidden value. It's common, affordable, and easy to find, but still capable of delivering exciting discoveries. Another surprising detail is that some collectors specialize in Lincoln cents from the 1980s specifically, because mint quality during that decade was inconsistent. Finding top-grade examples from this era is harder than finding older coins in similar condition, which adds to their appeal. Now let's talk about why collectors love this coin today. It's not just about money. The idea that something ordinary, something you might drop on the sidewalk without thinking could be hiding something extraordinary, is deeply appealing. The 1985 D penny represents that possibility. Collectors also love the challenge. Because so many were struck poorly, finding a sharp, fully detailed example feels like winning a small lottery. And error hunters enjoy searching rolls of pennies, hoping to spot a double die or off-center strike that escaped quality control nearly 40 years ago. There's also nostalgia. For many people, the mid-1980s represent childhood memories. Arcade games, cassette tapes, Saturday morning cartoons, and pockets full of change. Holding a 1985 penny connects them to that era in a simple, tangible way. And then there's the educational value. Coins like this teach people about U.S. history, economics, metallurgy, and manufacturing. They show how something as small as a penny reflects big changes, rising metal prices, technological shifts, and evolving design traditions. Before we close, let's go over how to protect and handle a potentially valuable penny. If you think you've found a special 1985 D penny, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin, even gently, can destroy its collector value by scratching the surface or removing natural toning. Instead, store it in a soft holder, coin flip, or protective sleeve, and consider having it evaluated by a professional grading service. If the coin looks unusual, doubled, off-center, clipped, or strangely colored, it's worth showing to a reputable coin dealer or sending for authentication. Many valuable coins go unnoticed, simply because people assume they're damaged or worthless. And remember, the most valuable coins are usually the ones that look strange for the right reasons, not the wrong ones. Now here's the big takeaway. The 1985 D Lincoln penny isn't rare in the traditional sense. Millions still exist, but rare versions of it absolutely do, and because it looks so ordinary, many people never stop to check the details. That's what makes it exciting. It's a reminder that hidden value doesn't always come in gold or silver. Sometimes it comes in copper-coated zinc, hiding in plain sight. So the next time you get change at a store, pause for just a moment. Look at that penny. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Look for doubling, odd shapes, or unusual details. You might be holding something millions of people have touched, but only a few have truly seen. And who knows, the next time you empty your pocket or coin jar, the penny that catches your eye might not just be spare change. It might be a piece of history, a collector's treasure, and a story waiting to be told. Most people have held this coin in their hands and never gave it a second thought. But what if I told you that some 1995 Lincoln pennies with no mint mark have sold for thousands of dollars? And a few rare versions even more, simply because of tiny details most people miss. Today we're uncovering the truth about the 1995 no mint mark Lincoln penny. What it really is, why millions were made, why only a handful are valuable, and how you can tell if the one sitting in your pocket change could be something special. The 1995 Lincoln penny is part of one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. The Lincoln cent was first issued in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and it changed American coinage forever. By 1995, Lincoln had already been on the penny for 86 years. That year, the front of the coin still showed his familiar portrait designed by Victor David Brenner, while the back featured the Lincoln Memorial design that had been used since 1959. For most people, the 1995 penny looks ordinary, but that's exactly what makes it fascinating. Sometimes the most valuable coins don't look special at all until you know what to look for. When collectors talk about a no mint mark penny, they're referring to where the coin was made. In 1995, pennies were produced at 3 U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins made in Denver have a small D mint mark below the date. Coins made in San Francisco usually have an S and are typically proof coins made for collectors. But coins made in Philadelphia don't carry any mint mark at all. So when you see a 1995 penny with no mint mark, it means it was struck in Philadelphia. That might sound ordinary, and in most cases, it is. Over 6.4 billion pennies were made in Philadelphia in 1995 alone. Yes, billion, with a B. That makes the 1995 no mint mark penny one of the most common Lincoln cents ever produced. But here's where things get interesting. Within that massive number, a tiny fraction were struck with unusual characteristics, errors or rare conditions that can make them worth far more than 1 cent. Let's talk about what this coin is made of. By 1995, the U.S. Mint had long stopped using solid copper pennies. Starting in 1982, pennies were made of zinc with a thin copper coating. So your 1995 penny is about 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. It weighs about 2.5 grams and measures just under 20 millimeters across. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right with the words, "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date to the right. On the back, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, with tiny columns and a small seated statue of Lincoln visible between them. One of the few U.S. coins where the same person appears on both sides. Most 1995 pennies look exactly like that. Clean, simple, ordinary. But collectors know that the smallest differences can mean everything. One of the most famous varieties from 1995 is something called the 1995 double die obverse. This is not just any small mistake. It's a major mint error that happened when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during the design process. As a result, certain letters and numbers appear doubled, not from damage, but from the way the coin was made. On this rare variety, the doubling is especially strong on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date. You don't need a microscope to see it. With a basic magnifying glass, the doubling jumps out at you once you know what to look for. And this single variety has turned ordinary pocket change into four-figure collectibles. While millions of people spent these coins without ever noticing, collectors eventually discovered the error, and demand skyrocketed. Today, a genuine 1995 double die penny in uncirculated condition can sell for anywhere from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on its quality. In top condition, certified examples have sold for over $2,000. But the double die isn't the only reason a 1995 no mint mark penny can be valuable. Condition matters a lot. Most 1995 pennies were heavily circulated. They were dropped in parking lots, slid across counters, scraped inside coin jars, and spent again and again. As a result, truly pristine examples are rare. A 1995 penny in perfect mint condition, graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services, can sell for hundreds of dollars, even without any errors at all. That's because collectors love coins that look exactly as they did the moment they left the mint. No scratches, no dull surfaces, no wear. Just clean, sharp details and original luster. And for common date coins, like the 1995 penny, high-grade examples are actually much harder to find than rare dates in poor condition. There were also other mint errors collectors search for, including off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, weak strikes, and die cracks. While these errors are less famous than the double die, they can still add real value depending on how dramatic and clear they are. Some off-center 1995 pennies have sold for $50 to $200 or more, especially if the date is fully visible and the error is visually striking. Now let's talk about real-world values, not hype or rumors. A normal circulated 1995 no mint mark penny is usually worth exactly 1 cent. In lightly worn condition, it might bring 2 or 3 cents to someone filling an album. In uncirculated condition, it might sell for 10 to 50 cents. But once you enter higher grades or error territory, the numbers change fast. Certified 1995 double die obverse pennies have sold at major auctions for $800, $1,200, $1,800, and in some cases over $2,000. High-grade regular strikes graded MS67 red have sold for $100 to $300. Exceptional examples graded MS68 red have reached even higher prices in competitive auctions. And this is what makes this coin so fascinating. A penny that looks like pocket change can suddenly become a 4-figure collectible if it has the right details. So how do you know if you have a real 1995 no mint mark penny worth checking? First, look at the date. Make sure it says 1995 and has no mint mark below it. Then grab a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." On the double die variety, the letters will appear clearly doubled, Not blurry, not shadowed, but distinctly separated. The date itself may also show doubling, especially on the 1 and 9. If you think you see doubling, compare it to known examples online from trusted coin grading companies or numismatic organizations. Be careful not to confuse true doubled dies with machine doubling, which is much more common and adds no value. Machine doubling looks flat and shelf-like, while real doubled dies look rounded and fully formed. Next, check the condition of the coin. Look at Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair. If they're smooth and worn down, the coin has been circulated and is unlikely to bring high value unless it's a strong error. If the coin still has sharp details and bright surfaces, it may be worth closer inspection. Avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Even if the coin is rare, collectors prefer original surfaces, even if they have minor toning or discoloration. If you believe you have something special, consider having the coin authenticated and graded by a professional service, like PCGS or NGC. That not only confirms whether the coin is real, but also assigns a grade that helps determine its market value. Now here's something surprising. Despite billions of 1995 pennies being made, many people still overlook them entirely. Coin jars, couch cushions, car cup holders. These pennies are everywhere. And yet, hidden among them could be a rare doubled die or a high-grade survivor that never entered circulation. That's what keeps collectors searching. The treasure might already be in your home, and you don't even know it. Another fun fact is that the 1995 doubled die penny became famous during the early days of online coin collecting communities. As collectors shared photos and stories, more people started checking their pocket change. Some collectors reported finding multiple examples just by searching rolls from banks. It became one of the most exciting modern penny discoveries in U.S. numismatics. The Lincoln Memorial design itself is also full of detail that many people miss. If you look closely between the memorial columns, you can actually see Lincoln seated inside. That tiny engraving detail was intentional and required incredible precision from the mint's engravers. It's one of the reasons this design is so admired by collectors today. Collectors also love the 1995 penny because it represents the modern era of U.S. coinage, a time when errors became more visible, grading standards became stricter, and everyday people gained access to collecting through the internet. Unlike rare 19th century coins that feel unreachable, the 1995 penny feels personal. You might actually find one yourself. And there's something powerful about that idea. A coin that once passed through vending machines, grocery stores, and gas stations might one day sit inside a protective slab, displayed in a collection, valued not for its spending power, but for its story. So why does the 1995 no-mint mark penny still matter today? Because it proves that rarity isn't always about age. It's about survival, mistakes, and timing. It reminds collectors that even modern coins can hold secrets. And it shows that knowledge, not luck, is what turns ordinary change into extraordinary finds. It also represents one of the most famous doubled die pennies since the legendary 1955 doubled die, giving modern collectors a realistic chance to own a major variety without spending tens of thousands of dollars. Whether you're a serious collector or someone who just likes checking their change, the 1995 no-mint mark penny is worth remembering. It's a reminder that history doesn't always live in museums. Sometimes it's sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. So the next time you see a penny on the ground or at the bottom of a drawer, don't dismiss it. Turn it over, check the date, look at the letters, because one small detail could transform an ordinary coin into something remarkable. And who knows, the next valuable 1995 penny might already be in your hands. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, but might actually be worth far more than 1 cent. A coin most people overlook every day. A coin that millions own, yet only a few truly understand. Today we're uncovering the real story behind the 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a small coin with some very big surprises hiding in plain sight. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of the most common coins ever produced in the United States, yet it's also one of the most misunderstood. At first glance, it looks like any other penny you've seen your whole life. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, brown copper color, no mint mark beneath the date. Simple, right? But coins like this often hold stories that go far deeper than their face value. And sometimes the smallest details can mean the difference between 1 cent and hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. So let's slow down and really look at what makes the 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny so fascinating. To understand this coin, we have to go back to the year 1998. America was in a period of economic growth. The internet was just becoming mainstream. Gas prices were low, the stock market was booming, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of pennies for everyday use. In 1998, most Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally does not place a mint mark on its coins. That's why these coins are called no mint mark pennies, not because something is missing, but because that absence tells us where the coin was made. The Lincoln penny design itself dates back to 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real person, and it changed American coinage forever. By 1998, the design had been in use for nearly 90 years. The obverse still showed Lincoln's profile, originally designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The reverse still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, added in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. Inside the tiny image of the memorial, you can even see a small statue of Lincoln seated inside, making it one of the few coins in the world where the same person appears twice on one coin. So what exactly is the 1998 no mint mark penny made of? By this time, pennies were no longer made mostly of copper. In 1982, the U.S. Mint switched to a cheaper metal composition due to rising copper costs. Starting then, pennies were made of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating. That's true for the 1998 penny as well. Each one weighs about 2.5 grams and measures just under 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Most people don't realize that pennies today are essentially zinc coins wearing a copper jacket. Now let's talk about the details that make collectors look twice. On the front, Lincoln faces right with the words "In God We Trust" above his head. Liberty appears behind him, and the date, 1998, sits in front of his chest. Below the date, if the coin has no mint mark, it means it was struck in Philadelphia. On the back, you see the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America across the top, 1 cent across the bottom, and E pluribus unum in between. Everything about the design feels balanced and familiar, almost comforting, which is part of why people rarely suspect these coins could be special. And yet, some 1998 no mint mark pennies are anything but ordinary. So why would a coin that was produced by the billions be worth more than face value? The answer lies in condition, rarity within commonness, and most importantly, errors in varieties. First, let's talk about condition. Most 1998 pennies have spent decades bouncing around in pockets, jars, cash registers, and drawers. They're scratched, dull, stained, and worn. But a small number were saved when brand new and never circulated. These are known as uncirculated coins. Some of these uncirculated coins were struck with unusually sharp details, clean surfaces, and strong luster. When graded professionally, they can earn high mint state scores, like MS-67 or MS-68, which places them among the finest known examples of their kind. Even though billions were made, only a tiny fraction survive in this kind of pristine condition. And that's where collector value begins to rise. But the real excitement comes from errors. Coins are mass-produced at incredible speeds, and when something goes wrong, they can create rare and valuable mistakes. The 1998 no mint mark penny is known for several types of collectible errors that can dramatically increase its worth. One of the most popular is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not positioned correctly in the press, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. Some off-center pennies still show the full date, making them especially desirable. Depending on how dramatic the shift is, these can sell for $20, $50, or even more. Another valuable error is the double die, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misaligned die during production. On some 1998 pennies, collectors have found doubling on Lincoln's eye, the date, or the lettering. Strong doubled die examples can command hundreds of dollars if verified. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing because the metal strip was misfed during cutting. These unusual shapes are eye-catching and collectible. Even more rare are broad strikes, where the coin was struck outside its collar, causing it to spread wider than normal and lack a defined rim. These unusual pennies look almost like they were melted outward, and collectors love them. Then there are wrong planchet errors, pennies struck on metal meant for other coins. While extremely rare, such mistakes can turn a 1-cent coin into a 4-figure collectible. But even without dramatic errors, some 1998 no-mint mark pennies have achieved impressive prices simply due to their condition. Let's look at real auction results. In recent years, professionally graded 1998 no-mint mark pennies in top condition have sold for over $300, $500, and in some cases even higher. Coins graded MS68 red, meaning nearly flawless with full original copper color, are especially sought after because so few exist. One example, graded MS68 red, sold at auction for over $1,000, all for a coin that originally cost 1 cent and was likely overlooked by thousands of people before being discovered. Even MS67 red examples can sell for $100 to $300, depending on market demand. That's a powerful reminder that rarity doesn't always come from age. Sometimes, it comes from survival. Now, how do you know if you might have a valuable one? First, look at the date. Make sure it says 1998. Then check beneath the date for a mint mark. If there is no letter, it was struck in Philadelphia and qualifies as a no mint mark coin. Next, examine the coin's condition. Is the surface shiny and smooth, with sharp details and minimal scratches? Does Lincoln's hair show fine lines? Are the letters crisp? Does the coin still have strong red or reddish-brown color instead of dull brown? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Then, look for errors. Check the date and lettering carefully for doubling. Use a magnifying glass or phone camera zoom. Look at Lincoln's eye, ear, and jawline. Look at the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." True doubling will appear as clear separation lines, not blurry shadows. Examine the edges. Are they smooth and even? Is part of the rim missing? Is the coin unusually wide or oddly shaped? Those could be signs of striking errors. Weigh the coin if you can. A standard 1998 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, that could indicate a wrong planchet or missing metal. Now, about counterfeits. Yes, even modern pennies can be faked. Most fake pennies are altered to mimic rare error varieties. Someone might try to carve or reshape the coin to imitate a clipped edge, or artificially add doubling with tools. Real mint errors happen during production and leave natural-looking distortions, while fake ones often look rough, uneven, or inconsistent. If you think you have something special, the safest step is to have it evaluated by a professional coin grading service or a trusted coin dealer. Authentication protects both your investment and your peace of mind. Now let's talk about some fun and surprising facts about the 1998 penny. In 1998, the U.S. laughed to be proud. Mint produced more than 5.6 billion Lincoln cents across all mints, making it one of the highest mintage years in history. That means, statistically, many people watching this right now probably own at least one. Yet despite that massive production, only a tiny percentage remain in top mint condition today. Most were spent, scratched, dropped, lost, or damaged beyond collector interest. Another interesting fact, the 1998 penny was struck just a few years before the Lincoln Memorial reverse design was retired. In 2009, the Mint introduced new designs to celebrate Lincoln's life, and in 2010, the Union Shield reverse replaced the memorial permanently. That means the 1998 penny belongs to the final era of the memorial cent, a design that lasted exactly 50 years. Also, 1998 pennies were among the last to circulate heavily in daily commerce before digital payments began reducing cash use. In many ways, they represent the end of a purely physical money era. Collectors also love this coin because it's accessible. Unlike rare gold coins or early copper cents that cost thousands just to acquire, the 1998 no mint mark penny can still be found in circulation, pocket change, and coin jars. That makes it exciting for beginners, casual collectors, and treasure hunters alike. It's the thrill of the hunt. The idea that something valuable could already be in your home, waiting to be noticed. And for experienced collectors, high-grade examples offer the challenge of finding perfection among billions of imperfect survivors. It's not about age, it's about condition, rarity, and story. The 1998 no-mint mark penny also teaches an important lesson about modern coins. Value isn't always about how old something is, it's about how uncommon it is in its best form. A flawless modern coin can be rarer than a worn coin from the 1800s. This is why grading matters so much. Two coins with the same date and design can have values separated by hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their condition. Collectors love coins like this because they bridge everyday life and history. This penny likely passed through countless hands. It bought candy, newspapers, parking meters, and coffee refills. It lived an ordinary life until someone stopped, looked closely, and realized it wasn't ordinary at all. That moment of discovery is what keeps collectors searching. So what should you do next? Check your change. Look through old jars, piggy banks, drawers, and inherited collections. Focus on coins with sharp details, clean surfaces, and bright color. Look closely for odd shapes, doubling, or missing metal. Don't clean them. Cleaning can destroy collector value instantly. Just examine them carefully and store anything interesting in a soft holder or envelope. You might not find a four-figure coin, but you might find something worth far more than face value, and that alone can turn an ordinary afternoon into something unforgettable. Because sometimes history doesn't live in museums or vaults, sometimes it lives in your pocket. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that even the smallest things can carry big stories, that value isn't always obvious, that hidden treasures don't always glitter, and that curiosity can turn everyday objects into windows into the past. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Most people wouldn't look twice at a penny from 2005. It feels ordinary, common, almost invisible. But what if I told you that one small detail on this coin could turn pocket change into something collectors actively search for, and in rare cases, pay serious money for? Today, we're uncovering the real story behind the 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans have handled, spent, and forgotten, yet one that quietly holds history, hidden variations, and surprising collector interest. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait design era. It was part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 and became the most widely collected coin in American history. If your penny from 2005 doesn't have a small letter like D or S under the date, that means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and Philadelphia traditionally leaves its coins without a mint mark. That tiny missing letter is exactly what makes this coin special to collectors. In 2005, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with everyday circulation. Most Americans were using coins constantly for parking meters, vending machines, and cash purchases. Pennies were everywhere, in wallets, car cup holders, couch cushions, and cash registers. And because pennies were so common, very few people ever stopped to inspect them. But 2005 was also a year of quiet transition in U.S. coinage. Just a few years earlier, the Mint had changed the composition of the penny from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc. That shift happened in 1982, but by 2005, an entire generation had grown up, never realizing that modern pennies weren't solid copper anymore. Yet the designs still looked the same. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, giving the coin a sense of tradition and continuity. In many ways, the 2005 Lincoln penny represents the bridge between old-school American coinage and modern mass production. The obverse, or front, features Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His face is turned to the right, with the word Liberty behind him and the date in front. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust." The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with the tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible inside the building. A detail so small, most people never notice it. The metal composition of the 2005 penny is 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating. It weighs about 2.5 grams and measures just over 19 millimeters across. To the naked eye, it looks exactly like most modern pennies. But that's where the story gets interesting. Because this coin was produced in enormous numbers, over 1 billion pieces from Philadelphia alone. Most examples are worth only face value. But within that massive production run, mistakes happened. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes can mean money. Some 2005 no-mint mark pennies were struck with errors that collectors actively hunt for today. These errors can include doubled letters, off-center strikes, clipped edges, weak strikes, missing copper plating, or die cracks. Most people would never notice these differences unless they were looking closely. But collectors train their eyes to spot even tiny abnormalities. One of the most sought-after errors on modern Lincoln cents is called a doubled die. This happens when the coin die shifts slightly during the minting process, causing parts of the design to appear doubled, especially in the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. On certain 2005 Philadelphia cents, small doubled details have been found, and these coins can sell for anywhere from tens to hundreds of dollars, depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's condition. Another fascinating error is the missing copper plating error. Because modern pennies are made of zinc with a copper coating, sometimes a blank planchet, the metal disc before striking, passes through the press without being properly plated. These coins appear silvery gray instead of copper-colored. The 2005 penny with missing plating can stand out instantly, and collectors have paid anywhere from $50 to several $100s for authentic examples. Then there are off-center strikes. These happen when the blank coin isn't positioned correctly in the press, causing the design to appear partially off the coin. Some off-center pennies still show the full date, making them especially collectible. A dramatic off-center 2005 penny can sell for $100 or more, depending on how much of the design is visible. Die cracks and die breaks are another category. These happen when the metal die used to strike the coins begins to crack from heavy use. The crack leaves raised lines on the finished coin. Some collectors enjoy finding these because they show the physical wear and stress of mass production. While minor die cracks add only modest value, dramatic examples can bring in higher prices. So why does the 2005 no-mint mark penny attract attention at all, if billions exist? The answer lies in the psychology of collecting. Coins that are common in normal condition become fascinating when they display something unusual. Collectors love finding needles in haystacks. And because so many 2005 pennies were made, people can realistically search rolls, jars, and old change without spending much money, which makes the hunt exciting and accessible. And there's another factor: condition. Most pennies from 2005 were heavily circulated. They've been scratched, stained, bent, and worn from years of handling, but a small number were saved fresh from rolls or pulled straight from mint bags. These high-grade examples, especially those graded mint state by professional grading services, can sell for far more than face value, even without errors. In fact, pristine 2005 no-mint mark pennies graded MS67 or higher have sold at auction for surprising amounts. While average circulated examples are worth 1 cent, top-grade coins have sold for $50, $100, or more, not because they're rare in general, but because they're rare in perfect condition. That difference between ordinary and exceptional is what drives modern coin collecting. Let's talk about real examples. In recent years, certified 2005 Philadelphia pennies with strong luster, clean surfaces, and no visible wear have sold in online auctions for prices ranging from $20 to over $100. Coins with striking errors, like doubled dies or missing plating, have sold for anywhere from $75 to $500, depending on severity and eye appeal. While these prices aren't life-changing, they're remarkable for something most people consider worthless. And every once in a while, a dramatic error surfaces that stuns collectors. There have been documented cases of 2005 pennies struck on the wrong metal planchet, such as a dime or foreign coin blank, creating unusual weight, color, and size differences. These off-metal errors are rare and highly collectible, sometimes selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars when authenticated. But here's the most important question: How do you know if your 2005 no mint mark penny is real and potentially valuable? First, check below the date on the front of the coin. If there's no letter, it means Philadelphia struck it. That's normal for this issue. Then look closely at the coin's surface under good lighting or magnification. You're looking for anything unusual. Doubling on letters or numbers, strange lines, missing copper color, uneven edges, or parts of the design that look off-center or distorted. Weighing the coin can also help. A normal 2005 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. A significant difference could indicate missing plating or an off-metal error. However, wear and damage can also affect weight, so this alone isn't proof. Color is another clue. If your penny looks silvery gray instead of copper, it may be missing its copper coating, but it could also be chemically altered or damaged. That's why authentication matters. If you believe you found something unusual, avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning can damage the surface and destroy collector value instantly. Instead, store it safely and consider having it evaluated by a professional coin dealer or third-party grading service. Now let's look at some fun and surprising facts about the 2005 Lincoln penny. First, 2005 was one of the final full years of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the mint changed the back of the penny in 2009 for Lincoln's bicentennial. That makes the 2005 penny part of the final chapter of a design that had been in use since 1959, a run of 50 years. Second, the Lincoln cent is the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Lincoln's portrait has appeared continuously on the penny since 1909, longer than any other president on any U.S. coin. Your 2005 penny is part of that historic legacy. Third, even though modern pennies contain very little copper, many people still believe they're solid copper. That misconception has led to countless jars of saved pennies, and among them, sometimes rare errors hide in plain sight. Fourth, because pennies are often ignored, they're one of the easiest coins for beginners to collect. Searching rolls of 2005 pennies is like a modern treasure hunt. You're not just looking for old dates. You're looking for perfection, mistakes, and hidden stories. So why do collectors love the 2005 no mint mark penny today? It represents something powerful, the idea that value doesn't always come from age. It comes from rarity, condition, and story. A coin doesn't have to be 100 years old to be collectible. It just has to be different and discovered. Collectors also appreciate how this coin reflects modern minting technology. High-speed presses striking millions of coins per day inevitably produce small flaws. Those flaws become snapshots of the industrial process itself. Physical evidence of machines under stress, metal flowing under pressure, and tiny human or mechanical imperfections frozen into copper and zinc. And perhaps most importantly, the 2005 penny reminds people that treasure doesn't always come from distant lands or forgotten vaults. Sometimes it's sitting quietly in a jar on your dresser or the bottom of your car's cup holder. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to become a collector. You just need curiosity. The 2005 no mint mark Lincoln penny may never become one of the most famous coins in American history, but it holds a unique place in the modern coin story. It bridges old designs and modern minting, tradition and mass production, everyday money and hidden rarity. And somewhere out there, right now, someone is holding one without realizing its potential. So the next time you get change at a store or dump out a jar of coins, don't rush past the pennies. Take a second look, flip them over, study the details, because sometimes history doesn't shout, it whispers, and the quietest coins often tell the most surprising stories. That tiny brown disc from 2005 might not look like much, but in the right condition, with the right error, and in the right hands, it can become something far more than 1 cent. It can become discovery. And that's what makes coin collecting, and coins like the 2005 no mint mark Lincoln penny, endlessly fascinating.